team in Athens is one that I look at, along with LSU, Texas, and say two intersectional non-conference games that could really be key come playoff selection time.
Quick glance at the top 25. Give me a team that's ranked way too high and maybe a team that was disrespected on this top 25 list.
Well, I still got to see Michigan do it, and I think Michigan's going to be a good football team. But I got to see them beat Ohio State. You look at them; they're at 7, and I don't think that's not. I'm not trying to be reflective of where I think Michigan is as a program. I think Jim has recruited well, and they play some good football. But to be ranked 7th in the country, and they still haven't tasted the college football playoff.
Right.
They need to be 1. Florida, too. I think Florida is a good team. I don't know that they're a top 8 team. I like what Dan Mullen has done with quarterbacks. I think Felipe Franks will be better, more consistent this year, having been with Dan for a while. There's been a lot of things happen in that Florida program off the field. They lost some key players on defense. We'll see if they, they're in the East, they're not in the West, in the SEC. I think that helps. But those would be two. And, the team that seems to always, I shouldn't say always slighted, but the team that just consistently wins and seems to win big games. Now, they didn't have a great season last year and lost to some teams they didn't have any business losing to. But Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy consistently have been, a top 25 program. And you look at the preseason top 25, and they're not there.
Yeah.
So I think that to me is a team that's, and you look at teams I think it's the last 3 years, the stat is there's 4 teams or 4 current coaches who have a winning record against teams that finished the season ranked in the AP top 25. Not games where those teams were ranked at the time they played, but teams that actually finished in the top 25. And it's the usual suspects, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban. I think Brian Kelly is in that mix. And then Mike Gundy. I think the only 4 current coaches that have a winning record the last 3 years against teams that finished in the top 25. So I think Oklahoma State and TCU. I mean, Gary Patterson is so dangerous coming off years in which they haven't played as well. Maybe haven't done maybe what most people thought they would. But you go back and see those years, the next year what they've done, the Frogs are usually low. So I would say TCU and Oklahoma State are 2 that I would watch this year.
We're here with Chris Lowe of ESPN. So according to Vegas, the Heisman odds are as follows. You've got Trevor Lawrence, you've got Tua, and then you've got Justin Fields. Give me a few sleepers that you think can make a push here for a Heisman Trophy. Is it a Jake Fromm? Is it, who should we be look out for someone to really elevate their game this year?
Well, I mean, if you go in history, it hurts his Heisman to lose, right?
I just don't think they give it to an Oklahoma quarterback back to back to back.
And I'm sort of being a little facetious, but I mean, quarterbacks at Oklahoma who have transferred in, by the way, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray have fared pretty well. I really haven't spent some time out there with Lincoln and the Oklahoma program last week. They're going to use Hurts differently, and I think you're going to see him have a big year. Now, does he win the Heisman? I don't know. The guy at Clemson that maybe doesn't get the pop he deserves is Etienne. They're running back. I mean, everybody's talking about Trevor Lawrence, a great group of receivers to throw to, but Etienne he's gonna have a big year. He's a guy that can run between the tackles. He can hit you down the field with home run type runs. So I think he's another guy that I like a lot. That I think has a chance to be that guy. That will be at least in the Heisman Trophy voting. Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin is just a guy that just churns out the yards. The Heisman's all about the guys who play the biggest from the biggest stages. And typically you got to be on a team that's at least in the championship hunt or the college football playoff hunt. I mean, that's sort of been the unwritten or unofficial prerequisite the last few years. So that tells me somebody at Georgia, is it Jake Fromm? Is it DeAndre Swift, somebody at Alabama, somebody at Clemson, somebody at Oklahoma, maybe somebody at LSU? Does Oregon sneak in there and get us? The Pac-12 finally has some representation in the college football playoff, and is Justin get a shot or a look there with the Ducks do well? But I think it's if I had to guess right now, it's going to be somebody who's playing for Oklahoma, Clemson, or Alabama.
And that's fair. I mean, I've not been this excited for a college football season in a while. I think the quarterback talent, I mean, it's so rich. I mean, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, and Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, even Adrian Martinez coming back, for Nebraska, I think, and Jake Fromm. There's a bunch of quarterbacks coming back, so we're very excited for that. Let's go into the conferences really quickly. The SEC West, I mean, it's just absolutely stacked. Alabama, LSU, Auburn, and Texas A&M, who I actually love this year. What are your thoughts in the SEC West? Do you see any of these teams challenging Bama?
Well, I mean, I think they can challenge them. I don't think they'll unseat them. I'd be very surprised if Bama doesn't win the West. And I still think the West is the best division in college football. And, some years have been better than others, but take Auburn, for instance. Auburn defensively will be as good as anybody in the country. I mean, Kevin Steele, their defensive coordinator, does a terrific job, and their defensive line is, in my opinion, the best defensive line in college football. Now, they're going to play a true freshman, Bo Nix at quarterback. How does that shake out? They can't get anybody hurt in the offensive line, but they're an example of a team. If you took Auburn out of the SEC West and you put them in a lot of other conferences, I think they'd be one of the top 2 or 3 favorites to win those conferences. And we get a chance right away to see what Auburn's got because they play Oregon in that first game in Dallas. Mm-hmm. You talk if you're old school and you like line play, you're talking about one of the best offensive lines in college football in Oregon against what I think is the best defensive line at Auburn. So right away we get a chance to see what Auburn's about, and we get a chance to see what Oregon's about.
Very quickly on the Big Ten, is this finally going to be Michigan's year with Urban Meyer out, Ryan Day in, and they have the transfer from Georgia, Justin Fields? Is this finally going to be the year that Michigan can break through and win the Big Ten?
They haven't been that far off, and you're asking earlier about overrated, and maybe I'm a little over the top on Michigan being overrated because it's not like it's been a disaster to them there. They've been in the conversation. They just haven't been able to beat Ohio State.
Right.
And the way they lost to Ohio State, I was at that game last year. They didn't get beat. They got thrashed in that game. That's the game. I don't care who you are. If you're coaching at one of those schools, Ohio State, Michigan, and you lose consistently to the other school, it's usually going to have a bad outcome. So with Shea Patterson back, they've tweaked some things. Josh Guy's going to be calling the offense. He's a new offensive coordinator coming in from Alabama. What kind of touch does he put on an offense? They'll be good enough defensively to be in most games, but I still think it comes down to that Ohio State game. They got to figure out a way to win that game, and it's been a while since we've seen that happen.
We're here with Chris Lowe of ESPN. Let's stay in the Big Ten really quickly. This is a podcast based out of Minnesota, so let's talk about the Gophers really quickly. Just wanted to get your thoughts. PJ Fleck, year 3 now. What are your thoughts on the Gophers coming into this year? They actually have, I think it's 7.5, the over-under. They have a pretty favorable schedule. What do you think about the Gophers this year?
Well, and you're right. Year 3 is always, for any coach, it's a key year. The second year, the year that a lot of coaches are able to make the biggest jump. But year 3, you've been able to stack a couple of recruiting classes on top of each other. It's really becomes your football team as far as the kinds of players you have in your program, the identity you want those players to have. PJ's one of those guys that just his enthusiasm, energy just permeates the entire team. You look at the division they're in. They're not in the division of record, with Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan.
No.
That's the division in the West that a team like Minnesota could at least make some noise. I don't think they win the West.
Look at what happened with Northwestern last year.
Well, exactly. Northwestern's a team, two teams that probably don't get enough credit in that division that have been pretty darn consistent are Northwestern and Iowa. Coach Parents has been coaching, forever, but just the consistency. But it's still, if someone's going to come out of that league and maybe under the radar, I think it's typically going to be out of that division. And here's the thing, if Nebraska truly makes the kind of leap that a lot of people close to that program think they will under Scott, then all of a sudden the West becomes a lot deeper, a lot stronger than we used to seeing it be.
Yeah, and a lot of people are high on Nebraska. I mean, they are very high. Year 2 here, Adrian Martinez, a lot of people are high on Nebraska. We'll see what happens. Week 1's coming up. You have some pretty, I guess they call it week 0 now. We'll talk about week 1, but week 0, which is Miami versus Florida. talk a little bit about that game. I'm a huge Tate Martell guy. I don't know I'm shocked that he lost this quarterback battle. I think they're talking about moving him to wide receiver now. Just talk a little bit about this game and also Tate Martell, like what's next for him. He transfers out of Ohio State after he says he's not when Justin Fields comes. Then he goes to Miami, expected to win this job, and then loses it.
You know what? The more people I try to connect to that program, the Miami program, weren't surprised that Manny Diaz went with Jaron as a quarterback. And that's not so much a reflection of what Martell did or didn't do. I just think Jaron was more consistent on the football, had made more plays during camp. And I know maybe nationally, to those of us in the media, even some fans, it was just sort of like given that with Martell transferring there, he was going to be the guy. But he wasn't the best guy on the practice field. I think that's the way they're going. We'll see how this thing shakes out. This is just the first game.
Yeah.
We'll see how.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that we've seen other situations like this where guys have been named and it didn't go the way they wanted it to, and then the guy waiting in the wings got a shot and took that team the rest of the way. That may be what happens at Miami. I don't know that at the end of the day that Martell's going to be playing another position, but he's. I think the best thing he can do is to hang in there and see what happens. Because I bet you he's going to get this shot at some point.
I agree. And you saw what happened with Jalen Hurts last year. He is going to be the walking example now of a kid that maybe isn't playing that year. The coach is going to tell him the Jalen Hurts story. Chris Lowe of ESPN, make sure to follow him on Twitter at CLowESPN. You can find his articles on ESPN.com. Thanks again, Chris, for giving me some time today. Outstanding job.
You bet. It's good to be with you.
And a big thanks to Chris Lowe for giving me the time today. Really good spot with him. I am so fired up for college football. It's back. Very exciting because it's been a long summer with baseball. Fortunately for me, the Twins have been very good, but it's very nice to have college football back. Okay, let's get into the Twins really quickly. Nelson Cruz, okay? He needs to begin to be talked about in terms of MVP talk. Now, I'm not saying he's the MVP. Don't jump on me. I know Mike Trout, Alex Bregman. I understand that. But he needs to at least be mentioned in that conversation. He's not because he's a DH. He needs to be mentioned in the MVP conversation. And in my opinion, he was the best free agent signing in the MLB this year. You look at Bryce Harper and Manny Machado, who everyone marked down as a clear cut, you must have, gotta have. Let me read you these numbers really quickly. Manny Machado this year, 266, 26 home runs, 71 RBIs. Bryce Harper, 254, 27 home runs, 92 RBIs. Do you want to hear what the 39-year-old Nelson Cruz is doing this season? He's batting .305, 33 home runs, 82 RBIs. In 91 games, he has played in 20 less games than Harper and Machado. Cruz has battled injury. He's having one of the most impressive seasons of his career. And if you look at Mike Trout's stats, they're very similar. Trout's batting .296, 42 home runs, 98 RBIs. Cruz has a better batting average than him, but Trout has more home runs and more RBIs. But this is in, 32 less games than Mike Trout. I mean, those are very comparable when you look at it in the scheme of, well, look, Cruz he's played 32 less games. Now, in terms of best signings in the MLB, you could go the Charlie Morton route. He's 13-5. He's got a 2.85 ERA for Tampa Bay. You could go Patrick Corbin, 10-5, 3.17 ERA. But I think Nelson Cruz, he has had immediate impact. He's added an immeasurable veteran presence in the clubhouse for this team, and he's swinging one of the hottest sticks in the league right now since the All-Star break. I mean, it is ridiculous the numbers he has put up. He ranks 4th in home runs, 11th in RBIs. His batting average is 6th in the league. Slugging percentage is number 1. OPS is 2nd. He ranks, he is the leader if he had enough at-bats to qualify, and he's just shy of officially qualifying, by the way. Here's another thing, and I don't know how much people look into the exit velo stat. I don't really care, but Aaron Judge has a 96.9 mile per hour exit velocity. Do you know who's second? Nelson Cruz, 94 mile per hour, according to StatCast. He's essentially top 10 in every key offensive metric.